Hey guys, thanks so much for tuning in again. Today I want to talk about the basics of the basics once again. These videos are aimed for players around 20Q to around 15Q. If you're a little bit weaker than that, you can still watch, and if you're a little bit stronger, you can definitely still watch. So today I want to talk about stones that are thick. So in our last video, we talked about stones making a base. So something like this two-space base is a very common thing in Go. To secure your stones, start to give them enough eye shape so that they can survive to the end of the game. This is another base. We call this a corner enclosure, but essentially it's just a base in the corner, capturing this territory fairly effectively and securing these two stones against attack. However, there's a lot of times when you simply don't have time to make a base, or you know a variation called a THICC. That's a settled pattern. And you'll see very often strong players play the THICC. And then they don't make a base. So in this case, white has a base in the corner, and black is not going to make a base when white plays somewhere else. You could very much consider this move, and this would essentially be considered a base. But you'll often see strong players just leave this alone. That seems to go against the advice. The advice is to make a base with your stones. However, these stones have a different property. These stones are thick. The first property of being thick is that it's very hard for your opponent to cut you. So in this case, there's a cutting point here. But when white tries to run, these stones are captured in what we call a net or geta. This is like a fisherman's net, and any move that white plays to escape will result in black taking one of the last two liberties, and the white stones will die no matter what. The final shape could look something like this. And so you can see that after the stones are removed, black is essentially all connected. And so this cut is not working for white, and white would not play here because white accomplishes nothing and only gives the opponent some points. So these stones are in part thick because they cannot be cut. But the second part of this is that they're thick because they don't need any more defensive moves. In this case, the best white local move is a peep. And the proverb says to always connect against a peep, so we'll follow the proverb. And the black stones, again, are all connected and have a ton of liberties. Another important point is the black stones are ahead of the white stones in this race. So white has no way to really curtail black without making a brand new group. So in this direction, black can run as much as black wants, but if white plays here, white might get attacked. And so this is a scarier move for white. White is less likely to play this move because it's a little bit scary. And so the same thing in this direction. If white wants to cut off black's movement, white might play somewhere here, here, or here. But again, these stones are quite thick. And so black can counterattack very strongly by playing here or here. And now it looks to me that the white stones are in much more danger than the black stones. When white reinforces, remembering that a one-space jump to the center is never a bad move, black can simply play some of the most aggressive moves that black can think of. So these stones don't need reinforcement. White is unlikely to play like this because actually it's not accomplishing white's goals of attacking. Thick shapes are relatively easy to recognize. They involve a lot of close stones with no working cutting points. So a lot of stones that are touching where the cutting points aren't working. These stones are also quite thick. So the only cut available to white is this one or this one. So for instance here, here, and here. But again, this cutting point is not working. When black Ataris the stone, it will be captured, even if white escapes. Black can just chase it to the edge, and there's no way for it to get away. We can tell this capturing race is good for black because white only has 2 liberties, and black's weakest group has 1, 2, 3 liberties. So white can only really gain a liberty at a time, but black can always take that liberty away, and the stones will never be in danger for black, only for white. If you don't understand this variation, you can read it out, but it looks a little weird because white's not going to do this. Generally speaking, players don't like to throw away stones for no reason. And I'll also say that this variation, this alternate cut, is not working for white due to this Atari. And so we can see that there's no cuts for black. Black has a base with eyes, and so we can say that these stones are actually quite thick. The same as these stones. So any nearby white moves can be counterattacked, something like this. It's just because black doesn't need to reinforce the stones immediately when white plays nearby. Okay, when should you defend thick stones? Well, first of all, thickness is a relative property. So if white is able to get a bunch of moves in a row for some reason, these stones are starting to look less and less thick. Or if white has a peeping stone, you should connect your peep to retain your thickness. And so in this case, these stones are starting to get surrounded. And so now it's time to jump away. Something like this should be fine. And in fact, another thing to do is play earlier. So something like this disrupts the white attack. The second time to defend your thickness is when the opponent starts attaching to stones and causing them to have a shortage of liberties. So when your opponent plays here, it's a really, really important idea to maintain your thickness by playing a move like this, or attacking the stone, and playing a move like this to continue to secure the base. And again, this cutting is not working, so our first property of thickness is maintained. And black can continue to tanuki nearby moves. So something like this, or like this, you don't have to play over here. There's no reason to. These stones will do their job with or without an added move. This move doesn't do much to affect the health of the group. And so now you can continue to attack white by surrounding and reducing it. White is not so thick here, and so attacking these stones is a good idea. Okay, so we've seen that thick stones are stones that have no cutting points and stones that have a lot of liberties and eyes in order to survive, right? Thick stones don't need to be defended with a base. It's totally okay to make a base if you're worried. This is great for territory. But the strength and weakness comes first. So if you have a weak stone somewhere, see to this stone before you do anything over here. As big as this move looks, giving your opponent all the centes against this stone is going to be even bigger. So see to this problem first before you come over here. And finally, we've seen that there are moves that you do have to respond to with thick groups, such as peeps and attachments to stones that don't have a lot of liberties. All right, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. In the next video, we'll talk more about why improving your strength is very, very important in the game of Go, and why it's almost always the first choice for strong players.